All right, folks. Man, I'm gonna give a little preface. If this cuts out without me doing like an outro to where you can tell I was like done, then when I'm filming this on, the storage got full. In that case, if that happens, I didn't check it, and um, it could, definitely happen. So, yeah, today's the 20. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's still the 26th of December. It was 26 seconds in when I said that. 2024, day after Christmas, actually. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is In the Image Clothing Company Music, 1/3 of our company. We also have In the Image Clothing Company podcast, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. But here at the music side of things, I've got Frank, the guitar, little GCS 102A by Yamaha, a little bit customized by me. That's why his name is Frank, short for Frankenstein. Definitely custom. And I'll explain a little bit of that within this video, because the point of this video is discussing radiuses in guitars. Now, a couple kinds of guitar setups, if you will. There's a completely flat fretboard, flat saddle, this white piece here, and flat nut, which is what you would think of with a traditional classical guitar. That's actually how this thing is if you buy it, and it's not how Frank is, because Frank, like I said, is very unique. And I'll talk about that. But then you have a radius, like a traditional steel string guitar. You'll have a rounding to the neck, to the frets on the neck. The frets are these metal pieces here, right? Where you place your finger in between those to make different sounds. Right? So anyway, yeah, I know we can get into playing, but a radius within the frets is something that I say is just absolutely essential. Like I said, I am the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. That's not a company about clothing so much necessarily. Yes, we're going to sell clothing. We've got, the ways of approaching clothing, but it's about the human body and allowing it to just do its natural function. And so we address a lot of things that aren't just clothing. And our hands have a rounding. They have a rounding this way, as if you're just like putting your hand around like a tree branch or a cup to drink something. But they also have a rounding this way. And yeah, they have to. And everything that we do in life has to accommodate. See, even as they come around the thumbs, they round. Everything that we do in life has to accommodate for the natural rounding to pretty much all ends of our hands are round when it comes to putting them around something. And we live in a modern world here in 2024, and there's so many things that are just so unnaturally flat that would just never be that way in nature until we have these man-made things. So it really alters the way that our hands work. And flat fretboard guitars have been around for, I'm not going to put a number of years on it, but a very long time. But that doesn't mean that they're okay for the human body. Just because they've been around for a long time, cigarettes have been around for a long time, and any kind of thing that can, that's just one of those things. I'm not condemning anyone for, doing anything, but I just mean there's stuff that's damaging the body, but it's been around for a long time. I mean, anything that you could possibly mention. It's not about being particular. It's about, this is the only way you're going to allow your hands to work at all, actually. So I want to get into this whole video on just the radius within fretboards of guitars. Now, I've discussed it. I have my video titled Full Nylon String Guitar Setup, where I go through the whole thing entirely, meaning the whole guitar, and show exactly what to do to just allow the hands to work, and then traveling through the rest of the body from the hands, just allowing the body to just do its natural thing. But I want to do an entire video here just on the rounding to guitars, necks, saddles, and nuts. So, yeah, here's the thing. If you're going to be doing anything that you could be doing with a guitar, you're going to be touching the strings, basically. And that radius in there has to be there. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to approach this video. I feel like I had it pretty well figured out right before I started it, and then now I'm like, okay. But yeah. Now, if you don't have a radius in your guitar, strumming is going to be really, really next to impossible. Here's the thing. We're going to get some new strings on Frank here in a day or two, so a few days maybe. But when you're strumming, if you play a simple chord like this, you can strum that thing and just strum it. Just hitting all the strings. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but what I am saying is you can just keep the exact same chord and go. Right? You can go all the way up and all the way down, meaning just strumming only parts of the strings within the same chord. So you can do like a half strum, if you will, halfway across. Okay, up or down. And that gives you just like a lot of dynamics within just one chord. So if I were to play like this, and within that I'm just strumming the like full 6 strings. Now if I play that same thing but just strum parts of the strings, as in just the bass notes in some parts or just the treble notes, then it'll sound a lot different. Right? Because then your ear can pick out parts of that chord because only parts of them are being played at one time. So you can just strum simple things like that, like just going from like a G chord to a C major, but you can go right, hit just, you can hear it, right? That just the bass and then just the treble. So if you just know like a few chords and you're just getting into strumming and you're just trying to like spice it up a little bit more, yeah, just pick out parts of the chord, right? This is half the chord and that's half the chord. And so just within certain strumming strokes, just pick out, you know, either more bass or more treble, and get a lot to that. But and then it doesn't have to be just if you're just starting out strumming, but that's a time when you could definitely learn quick. You can definitely expand your skills quite quickly just doing that. But one thing I'm saying with the radius here is you can't really pick out parts of the strings like that if you had a flat anything, right? Any of the 3, nut, frets, or saddle. You're not going to be able to do that really, because the way that you're going to attack the strings, if they're all straight, you kind of have to come like in at them and then like come back out to not hit the rest of them. When you're coming up, you kind of have to like come in and then come back out. It's like a lot on your shoulder. And up here, if you're strumming something like a D chord, which is pretty much just the like upper half of the strings, and then you go down to a G and you're now using like the lower half of the strings, what's going to happen is if that radius isn't there, you're not going to just be able to be like still evenly around the fretboard. It's like you're on a weird angle with it. And you don't want that, because your right hand wants to be feeling the same thing, kind of like this. Like this is how I feel when I'm strumming a properly set up guitar. Let me give a little bit of a display of Frank's setup here. See up and down Frank, how he's got this, oh, the camera is, let's try to go straight down where the lens is at. Straight up and down, Frank's neck, if you will, from the saddle all the way up. There's that slight rounding across, but then everything's pretty well even height as that rounding, like that slight radius comes across. So like I was saying, Frank's a little bit of a custom dude. I used, well, anyway, I filed the frets so that they're kind of round like this. And you can see that slightly within here and slightly within the saddle, just that little bit of rounding, right? Just enough to where it's there. So, yeah, when I'm strumming, I kind of feel like this, right? It's not like a this, because that's very not fluid, right? And you want to just be like, you want to be able to just glide across the strings rather than having to like attack them at like a flat, like this. Your shoulder's going to take a beating. It's very, very damaging. Travels through the rest of your life, you know, I mean, yeah, the rest of your life. So, yeah, that radius is just something so wonderful. It has to be there. It's going to help to where, yeah, when you're strumming, you can do that. You can just kind of easily attack it from both sides. When you're playing, like I said, you're up here, but then you're down here. Your shoulder doesn't have to change, because if that radius weren't there, it would just feel so weird trying to go from one side of the fretboard to the other, because it would just be at different heights. Or if it's completely flat, then it doesn't accommodate for the rounding to your hand here. But bar chords, you're never going to be able to do bar chords without you're never going to be able to do bar chords with a flat neck, like frets completely flat, without hurting your hand a lot, because you have to be slightly into your range of motion of your finger for the muscles to actually activate. And with it flat, you're here. It's not going to happen without pain. So a lot of things when it comes to that radius within the fretboard, the nut, and the saddle, a lot of things that are just so beneficial. Because when I'm doing like hammer-on kind of stuff, like whatever it is, right? If there's not a radius there, it's hard. I don't even know what words to necessarily say within this, and it doesn't need to be anything specific, but this video is great to kind of pick some things apart like that comes from having just a good radius within your setup, just to allow your hand to be accommodated for. So I will say, man, I've had these specific strings that are on here on and off probably somewhere around 16 times since I got Frank exactly a week ago, because it was Thursday last week. Today's Thursday. So yeah, you know, a lot of little fine-tuning adjustments. And one thing that's big when it comes to getting that nice even radius within the setup is these bass strings, they move quite a bit. They're thicker. When they like wobble, if you will, right? When they vibrate to get that sustain for them to ring out like that, they do it wider like this than those higher strings. They do a smaller little vibration. So, and you can see that. I'll show it like this. You can see when this string's moving back and forth, it moves quite a bit, those bass strings. So what you need to be able to do is get enough room between the string and the fretboard to where you don't have fret buzz like that, right? It doesn't really happen when I'm actually fretting it pretty firmly, and these strings are stretched. So when those new strings get put on here, the buzz will be gone. It's only there if you don't really fret it well. Well, as far as on Frank, the specific guitar, it's mostly the strings are just so stretched. I mean, you pretty much don't normally take strings off and put them back on unless they're like a backup set. And these ones have just been stretched and stretched. So Um, a lot of their tension is not there any longer, so they have higher potential to buzz. But you want to be able to get that rounding to where when it comes up, right, from like the high E, it comes up and then it slightly goes back down again, ideally even across. But then these bass strings, they need enough room to be able to vibrate without hitting the frets. And so it's kind of like just kind of like a little bit of a, you got to put a lot of time into it, is what I'm going to say, because you just kind of need to tweak it a little bit and keep tweaking it and keep tweaking it. But I could not tell you the extent of how worth it is. Like, I've had this thing for a week and I've been adjusting it every day, every other day. You know, first day I had it, I spent about 3 hours setting it up, and then more stuff since then. Today I did some things on it, slight little things here and there when I can just tell it needs something. And what what it does is immense. I mean, if you don't have it set up that particular, that meticulous, you know, to the best that you can with your current understanding and experience and patience, because it's like I'm saying, you know, you might have to just do it some little things again and again and again. But if you can do this, it's very uncommon to see. You'll see it. I've seen some guitarists play where like I'm watching them a video of them play online, and you'll be able to see their setup, right? Like there's a camera angle where it's kind of like this when they're playing or something, and you can kind of tell the height of their strings off the fretboard up at the nut, you know, and you'll see some people who are really good, and the reason is because they take the time to set up their guitars, because no matter how good you are naturally or how much you want to practice to get better, you're going to be battling something if it's not set up to accommodate your hand the best. So what I'm saying is with certain people I have seen to where it does have that slight downward slope from the center to the bass strings, but it's uncommon. It's so common for it to just be on a, I'm not even going to give the angle. I don't want to give any kind of ideas of what, because this is how it needs to be done. So it's just not so common to see this. And man, I mean, yeah, I just, you know, I want it to be really heard how much it's going to help you. Um, so much. So man, I'm just so grateful for this little guitar, man. And all the experience that I've had and things that I had to go through to be able to learn all this, because yeah, I mean it's night and day. Just a properly set up guitar versus anything that's not in any kind of way. So Frank's really set up well now. And that's one thing that's great is if you're going through like this like setup period where, like I'm saying, sometimes it takes a few days or even a couple of weeks playing it, feeling around, doing little tiny tweaks and things, and then, you know, going from there and seeing if there's any more that needs to be done after you play it again. I would really recommend to use the same set of strings through all that, even though they're going to start to sound not as good and not as punchy, especially like on hammer-ons. Like the hammer-on's not as firm, if you will, when the strings are stretched so much. So, you know, kind of take a week or two maybe if you're going to be doing a little adjustments like this, and get it really good with the same set of strings, because then when you put proper strings on, it's just set up and then you're just ready to rip. So I know a lot of people don't set up their own guitars, and you don't have to. There's people that can do it for you, but I want to say it on this, like with this kind of approach to it. Don't be afraid of it. No matter how expensive your instrument is or what, don't be afraid of trying to set up your own guitar. Don't be afraid of messing up setting up your own guitar. What it's going to really do is allow you to play better, because you understand what's even allowing any sound to come from the instrument when you're the one that set it up. It's going to allow you to be able to really understand what's needed to accommodate for your hand. And then when you're fretting chords, you'll be able to understand better, like, you know, what's, yeah, I mean, you'll just be able to understand the instrument better. I don't even need to like explain it any deeper than that. It's just, I really want to make it really clear. Don't be afraid to work on your guitar yourself. I didn't know at all what I was doing when I got my first guitar, and I just kind of started tearing into it. But now I know a lot about guitars, and nobody's taught me other than, it's been really great to have videos from the internet that, other people making videos like this. And so that's why I like to make videos of stuff that I know that I can help other people with. So yeah. Yeah, when I say no one's taught me, no, no one's taught me in person. I have watched plenty of videos of other people, and that's been a huge gift. Just the gift of video, man, that's something I love so much. I'm so grateful for. So yeah, that slight radius, put it in there. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of ruining the guitar. Pretty much anything is going to be irreversible. I mean, literally anything could be. It might require quite a bit of work, but it's going to be irreversible. You go too deep with the nut slots and you start to get fret buzz. You can get a new nut and just kind of pop this one off if it's glued on and put a new one on there. Or then, if you've done all that you feel that you want to do or whatever, and you don't feel like you've got it quite where you need it to be, then at that point, go take it to a guitar shop and have them, if that's what you wanted. Like, just don't be afraid of it, man. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of messing up. That's what this life's for, So really, that's how you're gonna learn. So yeah, that radius, it's just got to be there. It's really got to be there. Emphasis on those bass strings, because it's common for the high, the treble strings to kind of slope down, but it's got to be even on both sides. And so emphasis on the sloping of the bass string side of things as well. Yeah, because you'll just hear it too. You can hear, like, if you're just listening to music that's been recorded, like an actual just a recording of a song, right? Like just audio file of something, you can actually hear it within there, because something like a hammer-on, like I was saying, this sound, if there's a higher gap there than like over here on like the other side, or we'll go here because that's one string in from this side on the B string, and then like here on the A string, you can actually hear it if you get to where you can understand that. When you're listening to music, if people are doing like a hammer on, you can hear the height of the string and just like the amount of time that it takes to fret it. And you couldn't, what it actually does for you too is it helps you be on tempo easier when the attack's the same from up here as down here. Because if you're strumming and your downstroke is like different feeling because it's off the fretboard more than your upstroke, then it's gonna be slightly different timed, your upstroke versus your down, and you just want it to be. You want it to just be even on both sides, the feel and the amount of time and the attack and the release. And that's why I have my full nylon string guitar setup video that's as particular as it is, because we get this thing to just do what it's gonna do, and then our human bodies just do what they're gonna do, and you just mesh those two things together, both working to the best of what we can get them in our own situations. So that radius, man, it's just got to be there. Okay, cool, beautiful. I'm gonna show this one more time, just so this is like my documentation, even if nobody else is gonna be looking at this, as far as this part of the video, right? As like specific as I'm showing this, being able to look back and be like, yeah, Frank was set up like this at this time. This is how it is, man. That even radius. It's very slight, but it's there. And boy, does it help. All right. So, like I said, this is In the Image Clothing Company music. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Check out the podcast if you'd like to. Check out the main company side of things if you'd like. We show, like I said, the gospel of Jesus Christ is what we discuss within the podcast. On the main company side of things, we allow the body to work, mostly through clothing and just everything else we discuss, because that's really pretty much the second most thing that I talk about within anything in our lives, as far as like the main company side of things. Not just through music and the radius within a fretboard, but I use the term radius when I'm talking about just daily life, just incorporating a rounding to everything that we're using. And so me also being a fingerstyle guitarist, this is, yeah, just wildly important. So, okay. All right. Thank you. Do all that you can. So many guitars will come with a radius in there naturally. But get it even. Put one in if you can. Have somebody do it if you'd like to, take it to a guitar shop. They'll be able to do stuff like that for you. I mean, depending on where you go, I can't say that every guitar shop would, because maybe not, but it can happen, man. It can happen. Um, like I was saying about, really don't be afraid of working on your own instrument. Also, really, we can do pretty much anything with pretty much anything. As far as, you can take something that, no matter what the price is, no matter what your tools are, no matter what your experience is, and you can make it something that's going to be pretty much exactly what you need. So, yeah, just tons of possibilities. Don't look at anything because of what you've, been told or what other people think, and, think that there's like limitations on stuff. No, I mean, and that's one thing that's so beautiful about this guy, especially Frank the guitar. He's beautiful, beautiful in all aspects. I've said this, and I'm not trying to wear this out, but in all seriousness, he's the best guitar I've ever played, and it's very uniquely put together. So, kind of, he's kind of an example for both I and anybody who gets to see these videos, that, like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not about having what, people might claim to be the ideal, because this is actually the ideal, but it's not the way you would think of something being ideal as being. So anyway, yes, thank you. Put a radius in there. Put a radius. Even from E to E, put a radius. Has to happen. Has to happen. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything else I need to say about it. I'm not trying to cut this out early. But yeah, like bar chords especially, you're just going to get so altered in the shoulder if there's not a radius there. Any kind of fretting across the neck, your shoulder's going to get so altered if there's not a radius there. And any kind of picking, any kind of strumming, even with an actual pick, which I never use, still, yeah, just there has to be a radius. It's just going to help you with anything you can ever choose to do with a guitar. Really. So, yeah, put a radius. Just put one in there, man. Put one in there. Maybe I'll play a little bit of something.